Equation of a straight line or linear equation is the subject of our lesson. But before getting into writing formula and dealing with equation, there are several concepts that we need to master in order to be able to deal with equation. So those concepts are slope, x and y values, and intercept. We start with these concepts before going to talk about the different ways to write an equation for a straight line. So let's start with slope. Let's see, what does slope of a line mean? Slope of a line is measuring how tilted the line is. Let's say you're gone for a hiking and you come across this sign that I put here for you. You come across this sign. Then you ask, what does this sign mean? It means you are going uphill. This is the first fact. The second, it says the ratio of your upward move in altitude to your horizontal distance is 10%, or 10 over 100. Now, what does that mean? It means that for every 100 meters that you go forward, you are going up by 10 meters. If you are going forward 200 meters, then you are going up by 20 meters. So that sign means how tilted the road is. Now, you might ask the question how we measure the steepness or slope of a line. To measure, we need to see how much changes are happening there. That is exactly the definition for a slope. Now let's measure the slope of this line. Let's say we have this line. To measure the slope of a line, we need to see how much change is happening in x and how much change is happening in y. So a slope is defined as change in y over change in x, or some call it rise over run. Also, it's shown as capital delta y over delta x. A slope is represented by m. So slope is the changes in y over changes in x. So let's get back to our graph. Let us start to pick a point on this graph and move from one point, the point that we choose, to another point to see how changes is happening. Let's pick one point here on the line and the second point here and see what changes is happening to x and y. Let's call this one point A and this one point B. So what is happening if we move from point A to point B? If you pay attention carefully, you can see as x increases by 2 units, 1 and 2, y increases by 1 unit. So this is x and this is y, which is 1 unit. Or let's pick another point. Let's pick this one and this one. As x increases by 2 units, y increases by 1. Again, as x increases by 2 units, y increases by 1. So that is our slope. So we can say slope of this line is as x increases by 2, y increases by 1. So this is our slope. Now let's calculate the slope of another line. We start with choosing 2 points on the graph. Let's say point A and point B. To calculate the changes, we have to see how much change is happening if we move from point A to point B. X is changing by 1 unit. It means as X increases by 1 unit, Y is increasing by 2 units. So changing X and changing Y is the slope. So we write M equals changing Y is 2 and changing X is 1. So this is our slope. Let's do another one. What is the slope of this line? So to measure the slope of this line, we go through the same method to measure the changes in X and Y. We pick 2 points, calculate how much change is happening in X and Y. As you see, as X increases by 1 unit, Y is increases by 1 unit too. And this is changes in X and changes in Y. What if we pick another point? Let's say we pick this point and this point. Again, we can see as X increases by 1, Y increases by 1 too. So we can write the slope of this line as M equals 1 over 1. This is our slope. Let's do one more example, and let's say we have this graph and somebody asks you to calculate the slope of this line. So you know the slope is the ratio of the change in the Y value over the change in the X value, or rise over run. By rise we mean how far up of the Y axis we go, and by run we mean how far along on X axis we go. So let's pick 2 points on this graph. Let's say we pick these 2 points or these 2 points and see how much changes happening in X and Y. So as you can see in this line, X runs 2 units and Y rise 1 unit. Or here X runs 2 units, Y runs 1 unit. So this is our X and this is our Y. This is our X and this is our Y. So we can write that slope of this line is 1 over 2. And we are done. Now let's work with the new example. On this graph, we are asked to calculate the slope of the line. We know that the slope is rise over run. Now we pick 2 points on this line in order to calculate the slope. So we know that the slope is changes in Y value over changes in X values. So when we look at the number of units that X changes, we see that X runs by 2 and Y rises by 2. So we can safely say that the slope is 2 over 2. Sometimes 2 points are marked for you on the graph and you are asked to calculate the slope at that point. So that is called point slope form. The concept is the same, and that is to find the changes in X and Y in the graph. So we know that change in Y, but this time because we have 2 points, we say change in Y coordinate and change in X coordinate. Then we can calculate that one. To do that, we have two points that is marked here for you. We call it point A and point P. Point A has x and y value same as point B. So we have x and y here, and we have another x and y. We can call them x1 and y1. So the formula is m equals to y1 minus y over x1 minus x. So we have y1, which is 4, minus ny, which is 0, over x1, which is 3 over 1, minus 1. We subtract them. We have 5 over 2, and this is our slope. Now, on this graph, we have a line with 2 points marked. We can write the coordinate for both points. At this point, x is 1 and y is 1, 2. The second coordinate is when x is 2 and y is 3. Now, we have our coordinates on the graph. So slope here is y1 minus y over x1 minus x. So let's call this one x1 and y1. So minus 1, which is 3, minus y, the second y, which is 1, over x1, which is 2, minus 1, and we'll have 2 over 1. So this is the slope of this line, which is positive slope. The second one is a negative slope. The second graph is as a negative slope because it falls from left to right. So we can take these 2 points that is marked for you, and let's see what is the coordinate for point C and point D. The coordinate for point C is 0 and minus 1. It means that when x is 0, y is minus 1. And the coordinate for point D is when x is 2, y is minus 5. So x is 2 and y is minus 5. Once again, our formula is m equals to y1 minus y over x1 minus x. Now, y1, which is, we call this one y1 and this one as x1. Let's call this one x1 and y1. So we'll have m equals to y1 is minus 1 minus 5, which is the second y, and x1, which is 0, minus 2. Then we have a slope of minus 1, minus times minus is positive, minus 1, and positive 5 is 4 over minus 2. So these two can be divided and we'll have a slope of minus 2. It means as x increases by 2, y drop by minus 2. So this is our slope. What if we have a straight line like this? This is called horizontal line as opposed to vertical line. A horizontal line has 0 slope because there is no change in y as there is an increase in x. Therefore, any 2 points will have the same y coordinate, and since y1 minus y equals to 0, the whole fraction equals to 0. In this case, slope is rise over run, and it's y1 minus y over x1 minus x. So since we have 0 in the numerator, there is no y here, x1 minus x in the denominator, it equals to 0. As you remember, a 0 in the numerator means the value of the fraction is 0. For instance, 0 divided by 4 equals to 0. The same rules apply to this one. So when y is 0, we have a slope of 0. Sometimes we have a vertical line like this. What about this one? A vertical line presents a different problem. If you look at the formula, it is m equals to y1 minus y over x1 minus x. The problem with this one is it is not possible to have a fraction with 0 in the denominator. And no denominator can be 0. It's undefined in the mathematics. So we can say it's undefined. On this graph, we have two lines. What if we have two lines like this? What is really different between these two lines, and how do we distinguish them? If you look closely, it seems that the two lines have the same slope. So if they have the same slope, what is different about them? Here comes a new concept, that is intercept, which we need to know when we are dealing with equation of a straight line. Two lines can have the same slope and be in different places on the graph. And the way we distinguish them is to find a point that they cross the line of y-axis. So it is conventional that to specify that point where the line crossed the y-axis, this is called y-intercept, which is denoted by B. So we have line A, and here is the intercept for line A. Line B crosses the y-axis at this point. So every line crosses the y-axis at some point. And here is the place that differentiates between lines with the same slope. So when you are writing an equation for these lines, you have the same slope, but you have different y-intercept. And we get back to this concept later when we write the equation of a straight line. I think we are ready to do some practice at home. Find the slope of the lines passing through following points, then graph them. So point 4 and 3 and 3 and 1. Points 1 and 2, 4 and 3. Point 7 and 3 and 8 and 5. Points -3, -7 and -8, -1. In the next problem, you have the graph and you need to determine the slope of the line. So determine the slope of the line from the graph. And we have this graph, and this is our graph. Determine the slope of the line from the graph. So by looking at this graph, you should be able to write an equation for that and determine the slope. So it shouldn't be hard at all. With that, we are at the end of our session on slope. See you next session.